Zaki, thanks for
It's Ty and
thanks
Rez
for inviting us to do this
from
thing.
O.T.A Live, yeah.
I know you as being kind of fickle when it comes to like social media and kind of wanting to keep your privacy, and I kind of feel like this sort of period has sort of forced a lot of artists to have to kind of give that up as far as like their privacy to maybe engage more in social media. And I'm wondering how you were navigating or have been navigating that whole thing in the last 4 months.
I'm still fickle. I'm still not trying to give up the whole nine. And also because like can't be everywhere. I'm a mom,
Right.
and that's like 100%.
We're gonna talk about you being a mom and everything later on, but like speaking of the times and all that, like what made you wanna release the albums now and maybe talk us through like the thought process of how we got to this kind of moment where like your back catalog and some new stuff even have like started making their appearance on Spotify and other places online.
So those are a couple of separate things, right? I feel like I definitely have my own timing in life. I feel like I'm always working, whatever pace that may be. I feel like I'm always like I've got to. It's like artist thing, like where I have to just be doing it, otherwise for my sanity and that kind of thing. Doing an album at this time, I'm actually working on two albums. One is Ethiopian-based project that I've been working on that kind of came from an opportunity that that I had to create a score. So I was able to do. I completed my first score for an Ethiopian film called Finding Sally, directed by Tamara Dawit, Canadian Ethiopian.
Oh yeah, yes.
Shit.
Tamara
Yeah.
Dawit.
That
It's
just sort of
dope.
debuted
If you
at
haven't
TIFF,
seen it,
right?
it's dope. It is dope. It
Yeah.
is. It is doing. She stuck to her guns. To be. It was like I saw the process. I saw her going through the process, and I'm super proud. Like she's an incredible producer, director, writer, brain, intelligent woman. And I feel really lucky to have been pulled into that and given that role. But out of that came an opportunity to do a residency and learn Ethiopian scales and modes and spend time with like heavyweights.
I want to, because you mentioned a couple of things. I want to just go back a bit because, like, I'm trying to think, when did Zaki first come on the Toronto scene? Like, when did we first start hearing about you? '05 was when the first project dropped, right?
'06.
'06. So, but you were here back in 2002?
Why don't you go like this? Because you came from BC, right? So where in BC did you grow up, and when did you move to Toronto, and why?
I grew up in Nanaimo in BC. So the island. And I, as a teen, like when I was in Nanaimo as opposed to Cape Town,
Yeah.
I would escape to the city to check like hip hop shows. Like I would go see like AC Alone, and I would go see like the hieroglyphics, and I would like that kind of thing, and hang out with there were some rappers from the island. Like I had my own little rap crew in the island, and that
What
kind
was
of
your
thing.
name?
And
What was
then,
your
oh
rap
my
name?
god, my rap name.
Yeah.
Your group or your rap name.
I mean, so we were the Islanders.
Was there a scene back then? Did you feel like there was a scene back there in BC?
I was going to like high schools and colleges and community centers. Same within South Africa. Like it was underground hip hop till I die.
But as far as independent artists, like I'm talking about like a scene for the local artists. Like, was there a scene back then?
A scene, yeah. I felt like there was a scene. Definitely, there was. In Vancouver, my I was always I was always kind of like, my roommates were DJs. It was you know, back then it was G-Man and Risk that were doing, who also pushed for me. They got me onto stages as well. Like whenever I was back in Vancouver, I would be like, yo, I'm in town. Here, get on stage. So-and-so is opening. At our house, Tanika Charles was my roommate in South Africa, in everywhere. She's my sister. She's my sissy. But she in Vancouver, we had people staying at our house because of Robin and Garrett, G-Man and Risk. They had many events around Vancouver. That was the scene. They produced the DJ nights, they produced the live events. They ran weeklies and residencies and that kind of thing. But they were the scene. We had Slum Village. Before Slum Village blew, we had Slum Village at our house, you know, hanging out, talking to the plants. We met all sorts of people. I was still in high school. No, I wasn't in high school. I think I just left high school. 17 years old. Escaped the island to go to Vancouver, probably to catch a rap show and see my friend Prev and Heather. Actually, no, I met Heather and Tanika at the same time. Sorry, I'm all over the place. But met in Vancouver, and it was like love at first sight. It was like, hey, I can't remember who introduced. There was Jazar and Zeb from Contents Under Pressure. Rob Risk was also part of that B-boy crew. And writer crew.
And Zeb also, this is the same Zeb of the Rascals, right?
Yeah, and Rascals and Saul and all of those guys. So that was kind of the scene back then. And I was about 17 when I was introduced to everybody. And it was through Prevail.
So then what made you think about moving to Toronto?
Vancouver was too small. It was just like that kind of move. And it was my friend Jazar being like, you need to leave this place. We're going to Toronto. You want to come? Tanika moved, Zeb moved, Jazar moved, like everybody did this migration thing.
Who do you remember the first Torontonian you connected with from the scene?
Mike Jansen, Juan Lucas, Jesse Otaki.
Shout.
Jesse Otaki. Yeah, and I had people here already. Tanika had moved already. And Didi Onukulu was here. Yeah, it was just kind of like this natural migration thing. But when I moved, I had one suitcase. And I was like, I'm going to Toronto, but on my way to Toronto, I'm going to go to South Africa. So I ended up I did this kind of thing, and then I ended up going back to South Africa and then coming back to Toronto. So I felt like I was like packing and unpacking and like connecting all at once at the same time to different things. But when I hit Toronto, I felt like that was like, I started working at Vice, the Vice store on Queen Street, like within weeks. And not to like, my friends hooked me up. I was like, God, I need a job. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And they were like, yo, come work at the shop. And Jazar and Zebi were there. They weren't managing yet, but then they eventually, like, you know, that was the time when people were making like bootleg sneakers, like Nikes, like trading Nikes, like, you know, going to New York, making trips to New York and getting like one of a kinds, and then the Louis Vuitton, like taking the check off and like putting the Louis Vuitton on and selling them for like $1,000. It was madness. And then Goodfoot came out of that.
How did you two of the main producers on show, KJ and Nick Holder, how did you connect with those guys?
So KJ and Nick Holder, Juan introduced me to Nick Holder. One Love introduced me to Nick Holder. at that time when Juan introduced me to a lot of people, I still was like, I'm not taking this thing seriously, blah, blah, blah. That was the first song that I ever released. Like, met Nick Holder. He gave me a couple of beats, maybe like 4 or 5 beats. We made 2 songs, like, whoop, whoop.
It sounds like, I mean, just looking at your career, there's definitely like just a trail of you working with a lot of people and collaborating. But I'm wondering, was there an album or a song that you were making where you felt for the first time like you'd hit your stride as an artist and musician?
The hitting of stride, I think, happened. It's not like a this thing, you know, that old thing of like, it doesn't go up like this, it goes like this.
Yeah.
It's like, it's been like that. I've been like hitting strides, and then woo, they're just gonna chill, and then hit some more strides, and like those kinds of things. Because I feel like there are songs I feel like I've forgotten about. Like, oh shit, that song was recorded. That's a dope song. Whoa, you know, a collaboration that came out of nowhere. Not came out of nowhere, but like, you know, unplanned or on that kind of thing, and then it just kind of sits. Going back to why I am really re-releasing the back catalog, what I was writing about then, not just because also they were nowhere to be found online. I didn't have any means or way that I wanted to really record. I was like, it's too bad, I just gotta put those out and whatever. And some people know the music and a lot of people don't. And I am currently with a label situation, a label relationship that I feel really safe with. I feel really heard, understood, like that. I feel like it's a, and there's been strides there too. Like District 6 was like the first, wow, this is my family. And now with a very, with 6 Shooter, unassuming, I don't know how to think. Like, I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, that's the label that I want to work with from afar, because I'm like, that's like a country label or something. That's like, I don't see what's any kind of alignment there. But meeting the people and the team and you know, a long time of kind of hanging out with each other and trying to figure out how we work and how this would happen and how that, you know, always apprehensive, like always checking for like, I don't know if this is the right situation. But like in this time and in this last, it's been 2 years since meeting them, and it's taken a long time to kind of develop this thing. I feel like it's this wonderful opportunity to properly put things out.
Do you want to maybe just break down like exactly what is out now and what's still coming and when?
A couple of weeks ago now, I released a live in Toronto album that REZ, you happened to be called last minute to handle the sound, was it? Was I like, can you like record this thing? You were working?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you were like, yeah, do you want to film it too?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, you know, and you're like, yeah, I got some kids, like they can film. Huh?
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I'm working with some cool kids, you know, they can film it too. And so I was like, okay, cool. I think there were about 50 people there, and recorded that at the end of 2016. And then just revisited like, whoa, this is kind of cool. Like this is, you know, it covers some of the not the older stuff, like the first stuff. And it was this moment I couldn't stop crying, because so much had happened. That moment in time was so crazy. My voice was all messed up. It's not the best like performance, like, you know, it's wobbly as hell, like also, but there was so much emotion in that room. There were people that I hadn't seen in like a decade. The songs made so much sense at that time, so I re-released that. I released that fluke recording and filming thing.
So just to jump in for a sec, that was the 10-year anniversary of Show.
That was the
Right, alright.
10-year anniversary of that
Right.
release, yes.
And it was like it had been a while since we had like seen Zaki perform like in Toronto because of travel and life and family, and I'm sure there's a whole bunch of stories that, you know, we could talk about in between time. But that night was such a beautiful night. Like when Zaki says that she was like crying and it was emotional, like everyone in that room was like, wow, man, like we're witnessing like a beautiful moment right here. You know what I mean?
I'm going to be re-releasing. This was the EP that ended up being released on my first major label experience. Time. Eclectica was the EP that was supposed to be, well, not supposed to be, it is and was what it was, but it was gonna be a full-length album, but it ended up being like an 8-song EP.
Yeah.
So that's being released on the 21st, and another EP called Orbit. The full name for Orbit is Orbit, a Post-Coital Prequel, which is it's like the non-linear prequel to The Secret Life of Planets.
Okay.
How would you say your approach to making music has been affected or changed, or what have you learned, you know, over the course of working on all these different projects?
I feel like I've always felt somewhat formless when it came to my approach of creating albums, even creating songs. Like, you know, when people ask you, how do you write songs? Like, how do you usually? I'm like, it depends. Like, it's pretty formless, but it's always collaboration. It's always everything that I do. Everything that I do is collaboration. Like everything, you know, that's what art is. Art is collaboration, no matter what.
I want to ask you, because, you know, you mentioned like being a mom now, and, you know, for some artists across genres, like parenthood can have a major effect on the way they approach their art. And then for other artists, it doesn't do anything. Like they're just still the same artist. I'm wondering where you land on that scale.
Going into it and knowing this is a whole new ball game, making the decision to become a mom with my partner, I was prepared to have it lead me where I needed to be. And if that meant that I wasn't going to be an artist, then so be it. So be it. Navigate it how it is. The person that my child is has inspired me to be and continue to be that artist. He brings out so much more in me than I ever imagined.
What are the main takeaways from, say, working in Toronto versus working in South Africa versus going back home, and like the creativity that gets sparked from there? You know what I mean? Like, how do those places connect to you and your music, you know?
I began to use travel and the opportunity of being able to keep moving as almost like fuel, if that makes sense. Like being able to do that has brought energy and perspective and reflection and that kind of thing into writing and the way that I listen to things. Maybe if I'm hearing the same kind of beats, the same kind of accent, the same kind of seeing the same stuff all the time, it's like you kind of become like, I feel like I have a hot foot, like I itch to thing. Now as a mom, I have to like discipline myself to stay rooted, because you can't be uprooting a kid like that, you know, God, because it was tough. It was tough having that.
Yeah.
having that happen. At the same time, it was amazing, but you need roots, you need routine and that kind of thing for security as a child. Like as a parent, I need to think about that.
Out of all the cities that you've made music in, what's the city that you felt the most comfortable, the most at home making music?
Toronto. In South Africa, so this is the thing, like in South Africa, I didn't have my own studio. Like I was in and out of like Red Bull Studios. Like they had the Red Bull Music Academy back in 2003 or 4. And I think, maybe I had that wrong, but they have their Red Bull Studios in Cape Town, and I was like recorded a lot of things in there, or I would go to like friends' studios, or I would go to, in Toronto, I felt like I have always felt like I've had my own home studio. I've had my own, I've been able to work with Alistair over the years. Like we have an amazing we work very well. Connecting with Nick Holder, connecting with Darp Malone. Darp Malone was one of the very first. Part of the Juan Lucas and that kind of thing. He taught me so much stuff too. He was living in Ajax and had like a basement studio. So it felt like, as far as like making music and recording music and stuff like that, Toronto's been the base.
Zaki, what's the artist's role in 2020?
Our role is to take care of ourselves, be healthy, follow what moves us, to follow what brings joy, that feels, you can feel it in every cell of your body, that feels good for you. Even if it's like kind of, whatever it is, the thing that brings you joy, the thing that promotes your mental health and your, all of that kind of stuff. So I would say the role is to take care of yourself, and the rest will kind of make a lot of sense from there.
Well, thanks again, Zaki. Thank you for everything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good luck. Can't wait for the new music too. So keep it pushing,
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Peace.
Peace. Do we have to hang up? I wanted to ask you guys questions as well.
No.
About O.T.A Live.
No.
Because I wanted to say like podcasts and stuff, what's going on now, and like I kind of wanted to interview you guys.
Are we on the air?
Yes, you are.